Hey folks, it is the Nutty Knife Guy. A little something different. I hope you can hear me. I have to kind of be quiet. Everybody's tucked in their little beds, and I have time, so I'm going to try and sneak in a video at 1 o'clock in the morning. I may or may not have drugged their food. But I wanted to get this one in now. Kind of a departure. Going to get away from the knives for one video. I'll get back to the knives next week. This is something I want to get off my chest. It's kind of therapeutic. And as you've seen from the title of the video, it conserves cane self-defense. I don't like the term self-defense. I've been in that. We've been over that before, right? But there are some, when I first got hurt now, for people who don't know, the ones who've been with me for a while on this channel have known that I'm partially disabled. I took a spill down my stairs about 5 years ago now. Destroyed my left knee. It doesn't straighten anymore. I don't walk right. So I actually have to use a cane to walk with more often. Around the house I don't use it because I'm leaning on furniture and stuff. But if I leave the house, I have a cane or a walking stick. Now when I first got hurt, I had to put my weight on it because my leg was destroyed. Physical therapy, a lot of hard work. I've probably got about 80% of my mobility back, but my leg still does not straighten, which means I have a really funny walk. I limp. And after a while, if you limp, it messes up your back, and it's nasty, so I use the cane to compensate for that limp. So I do use a cane pretty much on a daily basis. Now when I first got hurt, it was, I did have to put weight on it. I was actually pretty much bedridden except for being helped to the bathroom occasionally for about a month. It was nasty. Well, when I started getting around, I realized that the footwork that I used to use for fighting wasn't going to work anymore. Moving to my left had to be completely rethought out. But when I realized that I was going to be walking with a cane for the rest of my life, and if anybody that's ever gone through something like that, you know that's kind of a gut-wrencher, but I started really thinking about using the cane for self-defense. Now, I've been a martial artist pretty much all my life, kind of a journeyman martial artist, living in a rural area, martial arts dojos and fighting gyms came and went. It was really hard for those kind of businesses to make financial go of it, living in the wilds of Tuscarawas County, Ohio. So I'm not an expert. I don't have a black belt or anything, but I've been practicing kind of a lay, I was called being a lay martial artist, pretty much my entire life, from probably junior high. And I started thinking about using a cane. I was aware of Hapkido using a cane. Hapkido is a Korean martial art. It's kind of a combination of Aikido from Steven Seagal and Taekwondo, which everybody knows and loves, right? And they have a cane as part of their system. But I very quickly dismissed that as impractical. Now, I'm not saying that the Aikido techniques don't work. Okay, I'm standing here without my cane right now, and I kind of need it, so I'm going to get it, and I'll show you what I'm using here in a minute. But I'm not saying that the Aikido cane techniques can't work. But there were two things wrong with them for me. One, they're very complicated. They're very complex, and in all the demonstrations I've seen, they never tested them against a resisting partner. Everybody was just allowing the technique to be done, and they were allowing themselves to be thrown around and whatnot. And there were a lot of assisted throws. And it's hard to show this without another person here. But something like you intercept an incoming punch with this hand, and then you twist this around their elbow and use this to labor them to the ground. Those kind of things can work, but they require a lot of training, and they require constant practice to stay good at. They also require some pretty complicated footwork in a lot of cases. No, complicated footwork isn't an option for me. Okay. Or anyone that actually has to use a cane to walk with. And another one is that they were all done by people who didn't use a cane to walk with. These were physically fit people with 2 good legs that could pull off all of these maneuvers. So that was out there. And there were quite a few. There were about 20 cane self-defense martial arts YouTube channels that I could find. And I had to call bullshit on them either. Now these guys are all black belts, and they could probably beat the shit out of me. But what they were teaching just wasn't practical. And as an example, okay, I'm going to show you this cane before I put it down and get another one. This is a cold steel sword cane. It's legal to carry where I live, and this is something that I use a lot. Okay, but we're not going to talk about the sword cane. It's just, right, but you can see by the scabbard just how dented up and thinged up it is, because it gets beat around a lot as I use it. But the first cane that I started with is one that my doctor recommended and my insurance company paid for. This is a bariatric cane. As I said, I don't use this to support weight anymore. I use this just to balance so it doesn't mess up my spine. But when I first got it, I needed something that could actually support me. So this is a bariatric cane. This is good for someone up to 450 pounds. Okay. And then I have a couple others here I'll show you here in a minute. But the thing is this, these were all able-bodied people that didn't need to use a cane, and the techniques that they were showing, and a lot of times just forgot about the real advantage that a cane gives you in a fighting situation, and that's reach. All right, I have this adjusted out, I don't know exactly, but it's in the neighborhood of 3 feet long. And I can hold this and keep people away. I can strike and keep people away. Even if I'm holding it with 2 hands like this, I can still stay distance. And if we're talking about a knife attack or something like that, that is huge. But they were doing idiotic things. And it's like trying to use the hook to pull someone, and they pull them in like a strong palm strike. And they said that, or you hit them in the forehead, and since their neck was in it, it would break their neck. Now that was one of the more traditional canes with a full hook going down here like this. Okay, but why are you trying to pull someone closer to you if you have a weapon that you can keep them in a range where they can't use their weapon? What if you pull him in and he just stabs you? You're pulling him in, you don't get you don't understand. You get stabbed. There was another one that they showed where you parried off to the side, and then you got him in a bear hug with the cane and took him down. Again, if you're a 30-year-old physically fit martial arts instructor that trains that stuff every single day because it's what you do for a living, you might be able to pull that off. But if you're a 65-year-old woman who uses a cane and gets attacked on her way to getting her fucking mail, you're not wrestling anybody to the ground, even if you manage to get him in a bear hug. Another one, and I can't do that down here because I'm in my basic confinement room, is holding it by the hook and spinning it for strikes. Okay, obviously, that takes a lot of room. Where are you going to get attacked? A parking lot when you're between cars, maybe a restaurant when there's a bunch of innocent people on tables. Unless you get attacked in the center of a gymnasium, this is going to be hard to pull off. On top of that, if you miss with one of these strikes, how do you recover fast enough? Right? Or these long strikes, even if you're not using the hook. Again, with this thing, it's hard to recover. Now, granted, with this bad boy, it's almost like a hammer. If you hold it this way. But again, I have my problems. But I'm 6'2", I weigh a lot, and I have some pretty decent upper body strength. I can control this. Other people may not do. If they have really bad arthritis and they just have weak grip, that's not happening. So what I wound up doing is going back to my early martial arts, and one of my all-time favorite traditional martial arts weapons, a hanbo. A hanbo is basically a short stick. It's a cane, just thicker, and it doesn't have any hook on it. That was traditionally used as a walking stick, a short walking stick. And so what I had was an actual hanbo lying around that I bought, I believe, at Karate Mart for less than $30. And I decided to make that into a cane. And I still use this occasionally. I found a toe on it. This is a 1-inch toe. It's a 1-inch red oak house. And I found some kind, I don't know what this came from, but this was a round piece of wood top of my garage. It was hard and just fit perfectly. Little girl blew in some tape, and I had a place to put my hand to lean on. I don't know, you can't see it, but it gave me a nice little handle. And this is actually designed to cut and balance the handle as a weapon. Now you notice that I am making strikes, even with the cane elongated, with both hands. I'll sometimes switch grips, right? And I'm not saying, I don't like to speak in absolute, I'm not saying that you can't do this, but you have to be able, if you miss, or even if you just hit and follow through, to get that under control. Because if you miss, a skilled fighter, he's going to step in and jam this arm, and you're done. Even if he's not skilled, if you swing and miss, his instinct is to try to take that stick away from you if he doesn't run away. You can't count on him to run away. So, what these guys are doing is teaching some techniques that look good, like you see in the movies, to keep students coming in and keep them coming back. Teaching them the next advanced technique to keep that money coming in. They're businessmen, I understand that. But a lot of what they teach people is just dangerously ineffective. Now, I'm not a black belt. I'm not God's gift to combat. But I worked law enforcement and security for long enough that I've been in a few scraps. And I gotta tell you, none of that stuff is gonna work. Combat is simple and it's brutal. When someone punches you, there's nothing that prepares you for being punched in the face except getting punched in the face. And just to demonstrate a story, and this is going to, that I don't think I'm really bad at. I was working security at a housing project in Akron. For those of you not from Ohio, Akron is a pit. Okay. And I'm sorry anybody from Akron, but it's the truth. Not all of Akron, there are nice parts of Akron like in any city, but Akron is not a low crime area. And I was asked to help 2 deputies enforce an eviction notice on a tenant at this housing project. Because he liked to sell crack out of that apartment, and they could never actually catch him with the crack, but they could evict him. But they had a female partner in the room, and she was about up to here on me, probably weighed 90 pounds soaking wet. And all I was doing for the deputies as a security guard was keeping her from interfering. She wasn't under arrest, so I had no justification to physically restrain her. But when she saw the cops put on her boyfriend, she absolutely flipped out. And she had these big cowboy boots on. And she came down on my right foot with those cowboy boots with all her weight. Now, grace of God, I was wearing some pretty substantial boots at the time and didn't break any bones. But it bruised the hell out of me and it hurt like hell. And as I said, she wasn't under arrest. I hadn't searched her. I didn't have any control over her at that point. She could have had a knife, she could have had a gun. I would have been done. For that few seconds after she brought that foot down, her foot down on mine, I was pretty much helpless. I was trying to keep the weight off that foot. I didn't know if it was broken. I didn't know if I was going to be able to continue standing. Now, instinctively, when that happened, I bounced her head off the wall and she went to sleep. Now, that would have looked horrible on any, video that you see, huge security guard, smashes a helpless woman's head into the wall, but that's the way things go. If she would have been armed, or even if she would have decided to attack one of the deputies while I was momentarily disabled, I managed to stay on my feet. She could have done pretty much anything, but right after in those seconds, right after she brought my foot, she could have done pretty much anything to me, and I would have been done. Okay, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm invincible. But because of experiences like that, I understand what it's like to be in actual conflict. And I don't think most of these guys that pitch this cane self-defense that I'm talking about have ever even been in a serious shoving match in the real world. I really don't. And another thing that really bugs me, and please, anybody that has recently started or uses a cane or is recently injured and is thinking about a cane, don't get roped in or talked in to buying what they call a self-defense cane. A lot of these guys on YouTube are selling canes for like $300 that have they're made out of some exotic hardwood or just some like oak or something like that, and they're carved with textured they put textures on it for handles. Sometimes they put notches because they claim you can rake somebody's skin off with them. Some of them have a semi-point on their hook that you're supposed to be able to use. Okay. If you gotta have it, I suppose, and you can afford it, that's fine. But the thing of it is this. In my mind, it makes it less effective than a regular cane. I'm going to get my bariatric cane. I do have a wooden cane traditionally, but my brother has injured himself recently and has borrowed that, so I don't have that available. But what these canes they're selling have are like a texture here, and they have, I guess you can call them spikes carved into them, so you can take people's, and they have, the hook they're down here is semi-pointy. Okay, you really, the only way that works is if you use it the way that they do, with these looping motions and these one-handed things. And because the one thing, when you're using any kind of a pole or a stick like this, you need to be, I'm going to get a walking stick for this, so I'll show you that, because this goes to walking sticks too. This is more of a Joe staff. I actually made this one myself. It's just out of some wood that I actually found falling off a tree. It was in my yard and it was fairly straight, so I made something out of it. But one of the things that's great about this is, let's say you're holding somebody off, like so. You can see the camera, two hands, and it's extended. All right, and you can move this around it with some alacrity. Okay, this can be speedy, and you can still maintain like this. But your hand, in order to do this, your hands have to be able to move up and down, the stick of the cane or whatever it is. Right? So you're going to make a thrust like so. This hand moves. This hand moves. You cannot do that with all this crap carved on here. Okay. And the thing of it is, if at all possible, again, you want to keep two hands on a cane. Because if you do not disable him with whatever strike, sooner or later they're going to try and take your cane. There's a lot of different ways, a lot of different moves that you can do. I'm not into techniques. This is just kind of more of a general, kind of a public service announcement, I guess. Okay. But when you're, right, because it's all about controlling distance. 90% of any kind of close fighting is controlling distance. So if you got a guy that's taking a knife and going for your belly, right, you bring this down, you sweep. First of all, you don't just let his arm, you strike that arm. You bring it down, strike the arm. And then you can actually get distance and strike at the same time. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this the way this camera is oriented. But I can thrust and step back, hitting him and gaining even more distance. Right? Well, let's say he does manage to pass the end of this and get closer. Right? I can move my hand down the side, sweep that aside, striking it as I do so. Right? And then I'm back to where it's extended. I have two hands again. Then I can, if I need to, I can deliver a strike. That's impossible because spikes and crap carved onto my stick. Now, I did a little bit of carving, very shallow on this right here. This to give it a little bit more purchase when I'm using it as a walking stick. But anyhow, it applies with the others. Same thing, this one's not as long, but the same thing. What do I do? I've moved down, I've moved away, I've brought the stick down in his arm. Now I wanted to stay in frame here because, but you could also do the same thing. You can strike this way and move out of the way of his blade. Right, or this way and move out of the way of his blade. Now these are just, general principles. Like I said, I'm not going to do techniques. But the whole thing of it is that hook, and there's another thing I like to teach is, and I've seen this in a couple of places, where let's say there's a punch coming in and you hook the hand and you actually use the hook to do some kind of throw. So you're catching the hand and it's staying in there. Or you're hooking the ankle and pulling his foot out from underneath it. Could you make those work? Yeah. You practice enough, you train hard enough, you practice all the time. You can make just about any wacko technique work. But your average person doesn't have the time, or a lot of the times the facilities, or a training partner to train that hard. It's not going to work. Essentially, when it comes down to fighting in personal protection with the cane is a club. Pretend the hook isn't there. The hook does not turn this into some sort of magical weapon like Thor's hammer. Right? If you're fighting with it, just forget about the damn hook. Right? It's a club. Right? Blade seeks flesh, stick seeks bone. Clavicle, very easy to break bone, will hurt and probably end the fight. He's not going to want to move that arm. Right? Kneecaps, not necessarily, shins hurt, but they might not break. You want to break something. You want to make something not work anymore. Mechanically not work. Patella, that'll shatter pretty easily. Another thing that and I think this is just for safety in the dojo, but let's say they got a double lapel grab, and you're bringing it across the arms and you're bringing it down on arms. So many of them, you're going to push in the chest. Why? If he does get close, and it can happen, nobody's perfect. If he's that close, right, and he's got you up against the wall, double lapel grab, give me your money or whatever, and you have the opportunity, and he doesn't, right, you can bring this down. Why push him in the chest? Pop him underneath the nose. There's a nerve here called the impractical. You hit there, it hurts. It's a small target though, so you can't count on hitting that. But you're going to hit him in the chin, you're going to hit him in the teeth. Just this motion in his face. If you can't, in the throat. Now, throat is lethal force, and that's another thing you need to know about cane fighting. If you swing a cane to the head, that's the same thing as far as most laws. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving legal advice. This is just to the best of my knowledge, my experience. If you swing a cane at someone's head, it's the same as swinging a ball bat at someone's head. It's lethal force. If you use anything if you start swinging like this, now this maybe not, this is probably not going to kill anyone, but if you start doing this to someone's head, that's considered lethal force, which means there has to be a lethal threat against you or the threat of serious bodily harm, grievous bodily harm, before you can inflict that legally. Okay? It's just, if it goes to the head, that cane's considered a lethal weapon, as far as I know. So bear all of that in mind. You cannot count on pain. That's another one I've seen where they use the end of the hook on this pressure point and that pressure point. If it's real life and your life is on the line, make something not work anymore. Make something mechanically not work anymore. Never count on pain to end a fight. If the guy is jacked up on whatever drug, if he's drugged, or if he's just enraged for some reason, that's going to insulate him against pain to a great degree. You have to do something to physically disable him. All right. So I guess that's about it. I know this is not a knife thing, but I'm hoping that somebody sees it and doesn't spend $300 on a cane that is designed for a fighting system that really won't work. And understand that this is fundamentally simple to use this as a weapon. Keep two hands on it, if at all possible. Go for things that will disable. Don't count on pain. Forget the hook is there. And remember that it's the cane's primary advantage is reach. If you don't have any training at all, and someone's got, if you're an older woman or an older man, and you know you're not going to be able to take on some 25-year-old that's just trying to beat you with his fist, you can fend him off while you're screaming bloody murder. Bad men are looking for easy victims. A lot of them will run away at the first sign of resistance. You can't get on that, but you can have it. And if you're making a lot of noise at the same time, when the screaming stops, the cops come. When the screaming starts, the cops come. Now, it might take them 4 or 5 minutes to get there. You have to be able to deal with the situation yourself. But a lot of the times when they know the cops are coming, the bad guys beat feet. Okay, so takeaways, if at all possible, keep two hands on the cane. If you have to release one hand, get two hands back on it as soon as possible. Remember that the primary advantage of having a cane for self-defense is its reach. You don't need a $400 cane to defend yourself with. And you need to physically damage things to the point that they don't work anymore, so that person can no longer harm you. Or you can cripple them long enough so you can run away and get some help. But don't fall for the bullshit, please, folks. Right? When it comes to matters of fighting, in the real world, keep it simple, keep it basic, and understand that it's brutal. You have to get mad dog mean, as Clint Eastwood said in Outlaw Josie Wales. You just got to get mean. Right? Mental attitude will carry you through more fights than any black belt, than any technique, than any weapon. Right? But I just don't want. There was a cane channel, but I can't find anymore. I think it got taken down. Either I don't know if it got taken down by YouTube or they took it down themselves. It actually had some good stuff by an older gentleman who had to walk with a cane. I can't find it, or I'd link it. I'm going to keep looking, and if I find it, I'll let you guys know. And I know most of you guys that have subscribed to my channel probably aren't going to care. And God forbid you God forbid you ever hurt yourself where you have to go cane. But I'm hoping that there are people out there that will look up cane self-defense and see this, and get a point of view from a guy that's not making any money at it, making any money from it one way or the other, and who's had experience who actually uses a cane. Let me know if you like this kind of content, though. Let me know if it was. I would really like to know if it was valuable for you. Now, a friend of mine recently pointed out that anybody can come up with their own martial art, and he was encouraging me to actually make some drawings and do some videos and write down some principles and come up with my own system. It has its appeal, but I don't feel I'm qualified for that. But if you guys would find something, or know somebody who might find that valuable, let me know. I could be convinced. Or maybe I can find a martial artist that knows more than me who can work with me on it. I don't know. But let me know in the comments. I do, even though I didn't do anything knife related today, I do have to get out my Kubi Sicario that I'm carrying today and send you off with my usual admonishment. Remember, to draw your knives only in just purpose. Sheathe your knives only with honor. And to remember that without knives, life would be dull and pointless. And don't buy a $400 self-defense key or a $300 self-defense key. Just buy a cane. That's all you need. And I bid you goodbye. Artist that knows more than me, you can work with me on it, I don't know. But let me know in the comments. I do, even though I didn't do anything knife related today. I do have to get out my Kubi Sicario that I'm carrying today and send you off with my usual admonishment. Remember, to draw your knives only in just purpose. Sheathe your knives only with honor. And to remember that without knives, life would be dull and pointless. And don't buy a $400 self-defense key or a $300 self-defense key. Just buy a cane. That's all you need. And I bid you goodbye. Artist that knows more than me, you can work with me on it, I don't know. But let me know in the comments. I do, even though I didn't do anything knife related today. I do have to get out my Kubi Sicario that I'm carrying today and send you off with my usual admonishment. Remember, to draw your knives only in just purpose. Sheathe your knives only with honor. And to remember that without knives, life would be dull and pointless. And don't buy a $400 self-defense key or a $300 self-defense key. Just buy a cane. That's all you need.